Make no mistake, Craig Kelly going to the backbench is the beginning of the problem for the Liberal Party, not the end. And according to my correspondence, and I'll come to that in a minute, it seems Canberra is in the usual bubble, and they're the only ones who don't understand. People are genuinely worried. Who then do we vote for, they're saying to me? It's a good question. Unfortunately, the only way you win government under our Westminster system is to be a touch better than the other side. Viewers are screaming out to me and asking, is this as good as it gets? They turn to me out of desperation because the government, whether it be attacking our veterans and their families, running up debt which will last for generations to come, being silent on critical cultural issues, doing nothing about the mess that's our education system, and not one single improvement on the energy and water front, I could go on. But against this trend, full credit must go to Josh Frydenberg. He has successfully navigated this very difficult issue in relation to Facebook, which required scholarship and persistence. It's a significant personal triumph for Josh Frydenberg. Yesterday on my Facebook page, Alan Jones Australia, I posted details of the Liberal Party around Australia, and the only word you could use is disarray. For example, in WA, the Liberals will basically become extinct after the state election, possibly being reduced to 2 seats. In Victoria, the opposition leader O'Brien has failed to land a single punch on the man I think's a political vandal, Daniel Andrews. In Queensland, the LNP opposition can't match Palaszczuk, and although Crisafulli is doing a good job, he is still burdened by the deadwood around him. In South Australia, the Liberals are now in minority government following allegations of rorting the taxpayer. Now, only a mug would ignore the responses on my Facebook post, Alan Jones Australia. Over 16,000 people engaged with the comment I made, meaning they've read it, liked it, commented on it and shared it. The comments are alarming, and that is an understatement. Karen writes, Scott Morrison says very little about issues we had hoped he would speak up about. He's like a mouse when he should be a lion. I'm disappointed. David writes, we need more politicians like Craig Kelly. If we've got any hope of keeping the lights on in Australia, Morrison seems to follow the Turnbull no-energy plan and won't allow nuclear. I don't want Labor light. I want a party that will help Australia grow and prosper. David writes, the more the Liberal Party move to the left, the more the quiet Australians are moving their support elsewhere. Robert writes, we're still in the Paris Agreement. Morrison believes in climate change. We're going to pay huge amounts of taxpayers' money for submarines that won't win any wars. No dams have been built. China owns so much of Australia they don't need to invade us. They already own us. I think Scott Morrison is a snowflake that melts when things get hot. Brian writes, sadly, they're lacking in courage and direction. I agree with everyone and achieve nothing. Craig Kelly is the only one with any real conservative values. Where to from here? Now, it's sad to think that these sentiments and these frustrations are shared so widely by the voting public. May we ask, what on earth have the last years of coalition government been about? We're further in debt than ever before. The cultural wars are raging. Our education system's never been so broken. Global warming still consumes the entire parliamentary party room. And the political leadership of our country refuses to sponsor free and open policy debate. It's only freedom of speech if you say the things they want you to say. Just ask Craig Kelly. Well, the polls are 50-50, and the coalition has lost its 1-seat majority. You'd think that's enough to trigger alarm bells within the coalition. There are seats right across the country, held by coalition MPs by a wafer-thin margin. Backbench Liberals have to ask themselves whether voters will stick with a government which is seen to do very little on the issues which matter most. The last word goes to my colleague Peter Credlin, where she wrote splendidly the other week in one of her Herald Sun columns, and she ended by saying, quote, on issues of culture, even the Prime Minister's gone missing. Asked on radio on Friday whether we're too woke, Scott Morrison said, who cares? I just want people in jobs and I want them healthy. Peter says, fair enough, perhaps, on the day Victoria was about to enter its 3rd lockdown. But a Prime Minister modelling himself on John Howard can't cop out of every fight. And therein lies the problem. As Corey Bernardi said when he resigned from the party, having warned of its disintegration for many years, I regret that those warnings have been ignored by those who needed to hear them most. Now, you can check all of this on my Facebook page, Alan Jones Australia.